Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the It's Just Dinner podcast. I'm your host, Tom Robinson, and right across from me, my co-host, Bob Walz.
Tom, it's always great to be here with you.
Good to see you.
Well, it's good to see you, too.
You have a jacket on today.
Well, I'm dressed up. We have a guest in the house.
Good. We do have a guest today.
You know? Yes.
So, yeah, it's, anything else going on that I need to know about in your life?
Well, I got a new truck.
You did get a new truck.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm like the coolest old guy you've ever seen.
You are the second coolest old guy I know.
You know, you do what you can.
Well, I'm excited about the show today.
I am too. I'm very excited.
We have the ProvoDatingCoach with us today.
Yes, this is the Provo's version of Hitch.
This is Provo's Hitch.
Yeah.
And this is Matt Liddle.
Matt, welcome. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for the warm welcome. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, good.
We're excited to hear about this. We've taken some time and looked at your Instagram page, and man, I'm excited to have you because you think exactly like I do, Matt.
Mm-hmm. And he likes people Tom, just let me tell you this. He really likes people who think the same way that he does.
And it also should scare you.
Yeah.
But Matt is great, and we're gonna talk a lot about Matt's page today. But Matt, tell us a little bit of how this Instagram page of yours got started.
All right. So I served a mission in Frankfurt, Germany, and my last interview with my mission president, of course, he gives that talk about there's something you need to change. You're alone, and you really need to change that. And so, I just was ready after my mission to work so hard and get married and work hard at dating. I'm a very driven person and just want to work super hard.
Does that sound familiar?
Yes, it does.
And so I would date like crazy. Every single week I'd go on a date, and I could get a first date, no problem. But then that second date, sometimes I could get it, and then I could never get past that. Never for years. It was like a couple of years where I just struggled so much.
The one date wonder.
Yeah, and so I finally was like, it was a long journey, of course. Dating can be a roller coaster.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And it can be depressing, it can be exciting, but a lot of sadness for me. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Is there something that I could be doing better? And I remember the funniest commercial that I'd ever heard between a conference session.
I'm an advertising professor, so
okay.
You say
go.
Commercial, I get all excited.
So I heard this commercial, and it was between general conference sessions, and it was a dating coach who was a Latter-day Saint, and Elisa Goodwin Snell is her name, and she said this awesome tagline. She said, "With dating, it's not you, it's your technique."
Wow.
Oh.
And that sunk deep.
Well, it probably made you feel better because you were able to say, well, it's not me.
It's my technique.
It's my technique.
Exactly right. That's right.
Yeah.
So I had a coaching call with her that I did, and I bought her book and her some of her materials and just started learning. And I spent 15 minutes every single day for a couple of years just studying dating and attraction principles.
Wow.
And then I found other dating coaches on the internet, but had to sift through a lot of garbage just with how the world of dating can be outside of the church and the church culture. So I just worked really hard, and every single week I would still go on a date, and I would start experimenting and practicing different things and different skills. And finally I was like, wow, this is really making a huge difference.
Wow.
This one girl, when I first talked with Elisa about my dating situation, I really liked this one girl. I had been on 2 dates with her, then she just totally was gone.
Ghosted.
Ghosted. But I was like, what the heck? What's wrong? I told Elisa that, and she said, there's 3 things you got to tell her. And if you just tell her these 3 things, it's going to make her want to go on a date with you if you have any chance, if she's interested at all.
Wow.
And so I called her up, and luckily she answered. I told her these 3 things, and to my shock and amazement,
It worked.
she was like, Yeah, let's go on a date.
Now, just a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, stand by.
Here he comes.
Because any moment here, we're going to release the 3 things.
I know, I'm on the
right?
edge of my
I am
seat.
too.
I'm like,
gotta-
oh my gosh.
But before we get to that, it sounds like what you've got here is content creation based on research.
Yeah.
And so Dr. Robinson's going to like this also
Here
because
we
he's
come.
big on the research
Very much
part
so.
here. And so this isn't just you shooting from the hip and saying, try this, try that. You actually put in a lot of time doing research on these fundamental principles.
Would you like to give
Oh,
my
yeah.
quote real quick?
Research gives you permission to be correct.
That's exactly right. If you find the truth,
Oh,
in
Wait,
research-
let me say it. As Dr. Thomas Robinson always tells
That's
me,
it.
Bob,
Thomas.
research gives you permission to be correct.
That's right.
That's right. And it's not about like, oh, who's right or who's wrong. It's what's the truth. And that's the goal of
Right.
research, really.
Yes, finding the truth.
Yeah,
Yes, it
and
is.
that's what I was about. And so ultimately, I learned a lot of truths. And I'm like, there's a lot of guys who struggle out there, just like I did. And if they just knew like how to change their approach and technique to dating,
If they knew
so
the
true.
3 things, that we're going to release here live on the It's Just Dinner
It's just-
podcast.
here we go. We've become relevant.
We have. Okay.
Lauren, does it work for girls as well? Because Lauren here is single right across from you.
there's a lot of principles that
Okay.
overlap.
All right. So
Yeah.
listen.
Okay,
So listen.
good.
So-
I'm
Okay,
ready. I'm
Matt.
ready.
So I think we're ready for the 3 things. Are we ready?
I am.
I'm ready.
I am.
I'm
Okay.
ready.
So I called her and said these 3 things. I said, 1, with dating, there's a lot of pressure. And this is all, I'm giving the credit. This is not my idea. This is what Elisa told me.
Right.
But number 1 is with dating, there's a lot of pressure, like whether you feel pressure or other people feel pressure, there's just a lot of pressure in dating. And I want to tell you, with me, there's no pressure
Oh.
with dating.
Whoa.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
And then number 2 is my approach to dating is I like to just have a lot of fun and get to know people, have a good time.
That's-
And then
Wow.
and if it goes somewhere, great, but if not, that's totally fine. Number 3 is, and I'm dating other people, you're probably dating other people too, so I'd like to just take you out on another fun date. And those 3 things.
See, I told you.
right-
I
I
like
told you,
this.
I like
You-
it.
I'm
Love
so
that.
glad that you were a guest on our show here today
Yeah.
because that's phenomenal.
That's exactly what we say, Matt.
Yes, it is. Well,
Oh,
not
that's
as
exactly
eloquently
right.
we don't say it as you said it. And so let's talk about these. Number 1, what you're trying to do at the beginning is remove the fear,
The pressure.
factor that exists in dating is that you're hunting for a wife and I'm in your scope now.
Yeah,
Because
now
your
there's
mission
pressure.
president told you to go hunt for a wife,
Yeah.
and I'm your next victim. And so
the
you
prey.
you're trying to alleviate that fear of the awkwardness of the pressure. To basically what you're saying is, look, I'm not trying to marry you, or I'm not trying to have a long-term relationship with you, and so don't worry that that's what we're doing here.
Yeah, I think you should go on lots of dates with people you're not going to marry until you're married.
I was going
Right.
to say, you go on every date you go on. This was someone you're not going to marry until the one.
It's still that one,
exactly.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. Good. And then number 2, again, the theory there behind that. What are you trying to? Why is that successful to say?
yeah.
Having-
So it's really connected to number 1. So from everything I've seen and the hundreds of dates I've been on, pressure really is the number 1 attraction killer.
Right.
And it's also like anti-fun.
Right.
And so if you can make things more light and fun and having a good time, everyone likes that.
Absolutely.
Any woman would love to go on a fun date with a fun guy.
Right.
You
Right.
know? And so that's really like you gotta. That's how you take the pressure off. Is you say, hey, I'm turning up the fun and I'm turning the pressure down.
Good.
Right.
Yeah, excellent.
And the idea of I'm dating other people, and you probably are too, is just to reemphasize the fact that I'm not hunting you as I'm not looking in your eyes and thinking this could be my eternal mate.
Yeah.
I just want to get to know you and have a conversation and have fun.
That's right, Bob. It's taking
Okay.
the pressure off.
I like
Good.
this.
That's amazing.
I like this.
And like I probably practiced saying what I would say for like an hour, just like
Wow.
making sure I could say it well. But it paid off. And then I went on that date with her, but then I blew it again. So I realized, I have more to learn, more technique to learn, and I need to change my approach more.
And when you say you blew it again, what did you do that was wrong? What did you...
Put pressure on her.
I mean, yeah.
When you kneeled down and said, "Will you marry me?" Was that
I didn't say that. I didn't go that far. But I just did things that probably weren't as attractive as they could be. And it's how you communicate. Like, you communicate pressure or neediness, which is kind of maybe at the heart of pressure, by your body language when you're with them, and also like how you talk to them, how you pursue them, how often you're texting or calling them. How often you're taking them on a date, pacing things out. So ultimately, like, I missed out on some flirting opportunities, which is fun. That's an important part of dating, right? You got to have fun. So the flirting, I messed that up down the road, and just learned, okay, I got to learn how to flirt. And part of why I never got past that second date really in the past was because I didn't know how to flirt well. And I didn't take a class in school about flirting. Did you guys?
No.
Yeah.
We've been trying to figure out how to do that on this podcast.
Trying to think. I don't think there was a class available in that we should start one.
We should start one.
It's the flirting.
Yeah, I'd like to do that on the It's Just Dinner podcast.
Well, there we go. So let's talk about that.
Not flirt with you, but have a flirting podcast.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that's a better direction to go with this. So what did you learn? What was your problem? What were you doing wrong with flirting? What did you have to change in order to become a better flirt?
Okay, so a lot of guys get this wrong, and I'm just one of them. But really, like, flirting, it's like, oh, I'm expressing interest, I'm complimenting, you look so beautiful, or different things like that, trying to make someone feel good. But what it's doing is you're trying to impress them, and when you're trying to impress them and force your agenda on someone, you're putting pressure on them, so it's not working.
You're creating pressure.
Yeah. Really what flirting is, what I learned it actually is it's playfully expressing interest in someone.
That's good.
So it's not just saying, like, I tell all the guys that I coach, like, do not compliment them on their looks until like later in the game.
She's saying yes there.
It's just a little creepy if you don't know the person.
Isn't it?
It's just like if you don't know them well, it's just like, oh, okay. All right.
It sounds too canned, like it's not authentic. It's like a come online of a thing.
And you're like, as a woman, you're thinking, you don't even know me.
Right.
But you're saying I'm beautiful. Okay, you just want me for like how I look or my body or whatever. Right. And that's what a tool or a jerk would do, right? So yeah, I mean, how do you playfully express interest in someone? How do you flirt? That's what I started researching a lot about and just practicing different things, and it was awesome. Like, my results drastically changed. I started going on tons of 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th dates, and I only had I never actually got to the stage of girlfriend, boyfriend until, I had one girlfriend before I met my wife, but like, I would go on lots of dates and date lots of people for an extended period of time, but never get to that exclusive stage until it was actually a good fit. Yeah.
That's right.
It is okay.
Yeah. And so as you did this for your own satisfaction, you eventually found the love of your life.
Yeah.
And got married.
Yeah.
And so was it after that you then turned this into a campaign to educate other young men? How did you become a coach?
So I've always wanted, like, ever since I started learning this stuff, I would talk to my friends about this and just share like what I'm learning, and I tried this out, like I touched her arm like this on the date and then pulled it back, and she like totally scooted closer to me, and like I would just talk about everything I was trying out and learning, and some people like just didn't get it and they like didn't care, but just talking about dating is such a prevalent topic in Provo and in my circle at the time. So when I was single, I really wanted to become a coach, but just didn't have the time bandwidth with school, with work, with everything. And finally, I'm just like, after being married for a little over a year and a half, I'm like, I've been waiting too long on this dream. I gotta go give back what I've learned and let people know about it.
So how does this work? Does someone contact you, or how do you facilitate this? How does someone hire a dating coach?
Yeah, so I do some free consulting calls, and that's kind of how I typically get a client. Is they'll sign up for a free coaching call, and then I'll try to deliver value and help them get to the next step for them right then in their dating and make some improvements. And then I always offer an opportunity to work with me one-on-one. And I've kind of toned that back just because of personal life circumstances. So I'm taking on less clients. But what I'm working on right now is a course that I can just sell. And that way I can multiply my time and just have lots of people learning the same principles without having to take one-on-one time with me.
He really is Hitch.
He really is. That's really what's going on here. So how would you classify or categorize, if you could, the people who contact you for dating coach advice? I mean, are they pathetic? Are they confused? Are they needy? I mean, what are you seeing from people who are coming to you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are just normal people. Like I would consider myself a fairly normal person. I know everyone's weird in their own way, right? But like good guys. I don't want to attract tools or people who just want to use women as objects, or just like people who are super weird. I don't want to attract those kinds of people, but for the most part, it's just been normal people who there's just something wrong with their dating technique, and they're not getting the results they want in dating. And so I work with them and help them get on the right foot.
Any idea on a success rate that you have with people?
Let's see. So, man, I should have that data readily available.
I was going to say, build it up here. So
yeah.
I'm an advertiser, so we...
Yeah, I mean, I've helped tons of people like for free before officially becoming a coach, and have had some great success there. As far as like coaching clients, one has gotten married, but most of them have not at this point. I've only been doing it for almost a year and a half. So,
and I'm guessing that your overall objective is not necessarily marriage, but helping them improve their technique.
Yeah, and a lot of them. So here's what I have seen and what I've learned is if they're committed and willing to go outside of what they're comfortable doing and try to change the way they approach dating, they succeed. And it's people that I do have some clients that it's really sad for me to just see them fail and not get the results they want because they're not willing to do what it takes.
Oh, yeah.
Like my grandpa, he always said, you can have whatever you want if you're willing to pay the price. And that's really what it takes.
Now we kind of see, and it'd be interesting to see if you've noticed this too, that part of this is very unique to our LDS culture. Because of culturally, we push missionary service over relationship, because relationship can sometimes be a speed bump in missionary service. And then we push marriage over relationship because we want people to come home and get married. And so it creates kind of a dysfunctional technique for a lot of young men, because many times in high school they never had an opportunity to go on a date because we weren't allowed. Because they weren't allowed because parents and teachers and church leaders said, well, you don't need to date at all before your mission. You can do that after your mission. And then all of a sudden you come home and just say, okay, go get married. And not only go get married, but elder, your main responsibility now is to go and find it's like a commandment from God. And so do you see that our culture is that much different than cultures outside that might not have that built-in pressure?
Ooh, great question. I would say but like so a lot of guys outside of our church culture, they may be focused on some other improper objective, like really. So I love I just got to share Dr. Craig Manning. He wrote the book, The Fearless Mind. He's done a lot of sports psychology and performance psychology for BYU athletes. I took one of his classes while I was a student here, and he says there's outcome-oriented people and there's process-oriented people. Mm-hmm. And people who focus on outcome, they're focusing on something outside of their control, and so they have high anxiety and they have internal interference, so they're not going to be as high of a performer or do as good of a job as someone who's focused on what's the proper process. And so really, like, a big struggle is get your mind out of like, oh, I need to be married. If I'm not married, I'm not happy. Right. But change it to, okay, I want to get married, but what's the process? Right. And when you start focusing on that process, your anxiety goes down, you start having more fun, the pressure goes away, and you're focusing on relationships. And it's a similar problem for outside the church too, but it just may be, instead of the outcome being like marriage, it may be like sex or something else. Mm-hmm. Like it's easy for guys to just want to move fast and go a certain direction, be like, oh yeah, she's beautiful, I want her, boom. But it's really, okay, what's the process of having fun, getting to know her, flirting, and courting her?
Wow, that's so true.
That's a big difference.
So true.
Well, and I love this idea that he's focusing on the males, mostly returned missionaries, that we have of improving their technique. Has your research shown you any recommendations for females to help them improve their technique? Because I'm assuming that not all, present company excluded, that not all single young women have perfect technique either.
Yeah, I mean, no one has perfect technique, and no one has to be perfect, right? But yes, for sure, I've learned a ton about both sides. One of the most attractive things that a woman can do is have high standards and hold the people that pursue her to those high standards.
Great advice.
But not do it in a salty jerk kind of way, but a playful, fun kind of way. Saying, like, for example, I don't know if my wife would smile at me sharing this, but I actually texted my wife to ask her out for our first date, and for her, that was like a standard violation. Right. She's like, this guy's lazy. Right. Like, he won't call me, and everyone has different standards, right? But instead of her like saying something about it in a fun, playful way, like, oh, you're gonna have to call me if you want to take me on a date, winky face. Right. Like, instead of that, she just kind of let it slide under the rug, and so I had no idea that was important to her. Right. So I couldn't like be the kind of guy that she wanted me to be in that moment. And she just kind of was like, oh, I'm not even going to be interested in this date, blah, blah, blah. Like, set bad expectations. And if she wouldn't have told me later, like, oh, I want to be called, it could have just been like, oh, I'm being a lazy guy. I'm doing, like, the thing that I need to do to ask her out. Texting her's okay. She's allowing that. So I'm going to just do that. And if that's okay, I mean, everyone has different standards. And if one woman's fine with that, that's great. But whatever the standard is, you got to enforce it, hold people to it in a fun, playful way, not a rude way, like, oh my goodness, you're such a jerk, you wouldn't even call me. Like, no one wants that. But it turns the attraction up for men. Oh yeah. If you say in a fun way, like, oh, you want to ask me on a date? Well, you're going to have to call me for that.
And you see how quick he'll call you if you say that.
Yeah, and then the guy has to work harder for you, and when you invest in someone, that's how you start to like them more. And so that's why it's so attractive for a woman to do that, is she's making the guy work harder, but in a fun, polite way.
Right. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. This is what we're talking about here, huh?
Well, let me tell you a couple of things that Matt said on his Instagram page.
Okay.
I just want to.
Is that okay with you, Matt?
Totally fine.
I'm going to repeat his words here because I found them so fascinating. Okay. So the first one I wrote down was you had talked about how to get the results you want. And I love the first one. It was just have fun.
Yeah.
How many times have I said that?
Isn't that what we say every podcast?
I think it's at the end. At the end of every podcast.
Yes, I thought the show was over there for just a second.
Okay, and then it's funny because what you said helps me understand the second one was get the process right. Yes. And that's exactly what you've been talking about. So, guys, you have to listen to this Instagram. You have to go on and listen to his advice on the Instagram. Here's another one that we talk about first dates all the time on this show, because what we're trying to do is just get people to go out to dinner, to sit and talk. And so you said what to plan on the first date. And get this was his first piece of advice. Inexpensive.
Yes.
Wow. Why inexpensive? Tell us.
Great question. Oh, man, that's loaded. So
I know your answer.
I'm sure you do. So just imagine someone comes to wherever you live, and they all of a sudden they are like cleaning your apartment, your house, wherever you're living. They cook you dinner. They're doing like over the top, super nice things for you, and you didn't ask for that. How would you feel? Like a little awkward, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the same with dating. Like, if you don't even know someone super well and you're dropping like $50 on them, what's that communicating? That's communicating, hey, I want to impress you. Right. I know I like you. And so like a woman would be like, oh, that's awkward. My wife's
creating pressure.
Yeah, it's creating pressure.
Yeah.
So my wife told me like some guy took her to a Garth Brooks concert and an expensive dinner on a first date.
Oh my gosh.
So he dropped like $80. So
could you give her his name? Can you share is that part of the service?
Maybe his social security as well. I don't know.
And his card number and the PIN?
Oh yeah, I'll get you all the deets. But yeah, like he dropped $80, and that's not financially smart. You're not going to be able to go on one date a week at that rate unless you're a millionaire or something. And so like she just felt kind of like, oh, like this is a lot of pressure. He really likes me. He's really trying to impress me. So keep it inexpensive. You guys say it's just dinner, like just go to dinner. Well, I mean, you can make it cheaper than that. You can be like, I got this bocce ball kit. I'm going to a park.
It's just the park.
Right.
Like,
we had a whole podcast on this about what it's just could be.
It is.
Yeah.
And the cheaper, the better.
Yeah.
The cheaper, the better. We even talked about it's just a walk.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's great. Great answer. Thank you. This is the second one. He said, choose something fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like a walk or bocce ball or pickleball or something else that's just fun, right?
Do something you enjoy, so whether or not the date goes somewhere, you have a good time.
Oh, that's so smart.
Right.
That is so smart.
Right.
Do something you enjoy so they see you enjoying it.
It's just Mortal Kombat?
It's just it's just video games. Yeah. Now this
Try
is the
to
one.
choose something they enjoy too, but keep yourself first, I think.
The third one was one that we talk about all the time, and Matt said, do something where you can talk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wow, that's so true.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about, really, is me getting to know you.
It's really just have a conversation.
Right.
It doesn't really matter where it takes place. It can be over an $80 dinner or it can be over a walk, but the essence is have a conversation so you can do what you mentioned, and that is to get to know the person. Because you're never going to want to go on a second date with somebody if you fail to get to know them on the first date.
Yeah. And on top of that, if you're in a place where you can't talk with them, it's hard to flirt with them and build that attraction between the two of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in another one, he actually, just going along conversation, he had another Instagram post that the question was how to have a great conversation. And it says, make them feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. I love that one. And that's, again, that pressure that you talked about earlier. Take the pressure off, make them feel comfortable. And then I loved what he said this. He said, it makes you look more attractive. What does that mean?
So, I mean, if you think about anybody that you really look up to or you like spending time with, it's always, oh, I feel comfortable around that person. And that's ultimately like how you get people to like spending time with you is you put them at ease, you make them feel comfortable. Because no one likes being in a situation where it's like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. You want it the whole time you're thinking, how do I escape this? How do I get out?
Right.
But if it's instead, oh, this is comfortable, this is fun. Oh, I want to stay here, and I want to be with this person longer. And then if you're really smart, you'll end the date before it gets too long, right? And keep them wanting more.
Yeah, great. And the second one on this one was have a genuine interest in them. And I've heard you talk about this all the time. Mm-hmm. It's just those follow-up questions. Be interested in who they are as a person.
And that's one of the hardest things for many people to do, and it's what we call listening. and people have sometimes, because you're nervous and you're thinking about what you're going to say.
The next question.
And you're not thinking about what they're going in what they're saying. And so if you listen to what they're saying and you base your next question off what they say, then it becomes a conversation.
Yes.
And so sometimes when people are nervous, they have a list of questions and they go down those questions, and it's an interrogation that way.
Yeah.
But when you're able to listen to people, they not only feel better about it, but it becomes more enjoyable for you too, because now it's light, it's free, it's a conversation, and talk mostly about them.
Yeah.
And what are their interests? What are the things they like? What's important to them? And explore that. And if you do, they're going to feel relaxed and they're going to feel comfortable. If you're only just talking about yourself, it's okay to talk about yourself sometimes because you want to explain who you are and what you believe in. But if everything is coming back to you and this is you and this is you, then the other person thinks, why did you invite me here? Because you seem to already have a relationship
with yourself.
Well,
someone your own height and weight.
Yeah, something that women love too is women love a little bit of mystery. And so if you're just talking about yourself too much, you're killing attraction right there.
That's a good point. Great point.
You're telling them everything, and she's like, oh, I don't need another date with him. I know everything.
I got what I need to know. Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of that. That is a good point.
Now, Matt, you had a piece of writing up on your Instagram page that I loved, and this is what it said, Bob. It said, God cares deeply for your dating success. And wow, I saw that and I could not agree more. And it's one of the things I try to get across to the young people is that he does care about what you're doing, but because he wants you to have fun. He wants you to meet as many of his children as you possibly can. He wants you to be successful, because when you're not successful, you're not happy, and that's why we're here, is to be happy.
And that's just an interesting twist on things, because sometimes I have seen in our young women's programs, and sometimes from parents, that we treat dating as if it's evil.
Right.
That dating is a bad thing. And even, some people say, well, all he wants to do is date. He's back from his mission. He needs to get married. And all he wants to do is go out there and date. And so it's kind of akin to just wasting time, just being selfish, when really what you're doing is getting to know people. And so it's nice to switch it in that way, to realize that our Heavenly Father does want us to get to know people.
Right.
He wants us to make a decision on who our eternal mate is based upon things that are more important than just one date, or how somebody looks or the color of their eyes. It needs to be on compatibility, because that's the only way you're going to make it for 50 or 60 years.
Right.
Is to have those things in common that you can draw on in your relationship.
Yeah, and just to add on, God really does care. I can't echo that more and appreciate that. But really, part of why I'm a dating coach is I felt inspired and prompted by God to study and work on this. He told me, here's what you need to work on to get what you want in dating. And ultimately, that led to me being ready to date my wife. And my wife wouldn't have dated me or married me if I didn't work on what I had worked on. So I'm really grateful for God, and I know that God really does care.
Yeah, he really does. And I think Bob and I have talked about, we kind of feel like this is a calling for us to do this because we believe in it. We believe in the young people at this university and at UVU and other places. So, Matt, thank you. It's been an absolute thrill.
Yes, Matt,
fascinating.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for your advice. And you can find Matt on ProvoDatingCoach.
At ProvoDatingCoach on Instagram.
At ProvoDatingCoach.
And then you're also on YouTube, right?
Yes. So ProvoDatingCoach on YouTube as well.
And they can get in contact with you through the Instagram page if they want to talk more and get some more advice?
Yep. There's a link in my bio, and you can get all the good stuff there.
Good. Well, thank you very much for coming. Hey, you can also find us on Instagram. We're at It's Just Dinner YSA. That's YSA like Young Single Adult on Instagram. And on TikTok at It's Just Dinner. Did you know we were on TikTok?
I did not even know that.
We are on TikTok.
Matt's not on TikTok.
Not yet.
You need to be, Matt. All your stuff
Come
would be great
Matt,
on TikTok.
Get with the program here.
If you have questions, we're actually getting a lot of questions through our email, and it's itsjustdinnerYSA@gmail.com. So if you have questions, if you want us to pass something along to Matt, you can email us at itsjustdinnerYSA@gmail.com. And always, when you're listening, leave reviews.
Yes, good reviews.
Good ones. We don't need the bad ones.
Mm-hmm.
So,
because remember, Tom likes people who think the way he does.
That's right. So, thank you, Bob, for being here.
My pleasure.
Matt, thank you again. And hey, guys, just go have fun out there, will you?